Now, I want you people here in this room to know that this church has been incredible over these last 12 weeks. I don't know if you realize it or not. If you were on the 59 Zoom call last week, that was absolutely amazing. We all thought it was going to work out a little bit differently. We all thought that we were going to see one screen with everybody's picture in there in a tiny little box, but it was actually on a couple different pages. But there were a lot of you on there, and some of you didn't want us to see you, and that's okay. But you could hear. And some had a lot more challenges to get on the call. I won't mention any names, but they're sitting in the front here. But anyways, but it was amazing. But I said there that the giving has just been, phenomenal. March and April were our two best months of giving in the midst of this pandemic. And so it's opened up a lot of avenues for us. And I said that part of what we've been able to do, because we did become part of the payroll protection plan. So the federal government, think about this. Despite what we say about the government interference in church and stuff, and despite the fact that I do feel like, the governor can declare a state of an emergency. Now, this is going to sound too political, but forgive me. That the governor can declare a state of emergency and become God to California, and then say churches can't meet. But you can protest all you want, but churches can't meet. To me, I have a problem with that because both are First Amendment rights. But anyways, so we got some issues with the government, and then all of a sudden they give us $40,000. So, we're praising the Lord for that. So we're paying our people, and we're keeping our people paid, but that's freed up some other money. And as we said, we were able to buy a new soundboard. So today is really the first time that soundboard has been used playing through this house. The old one is now, you've got two introverts that are on the other side of that wall there. Adam has built a compound inside of Carrie's office, and he's running the sound for the live stream. And Michael Glaudman's is just on the other side of this wall, and he's got about 14 different monitors and this high-power computer he built all sitting there, and he's kind of putting that out to the whole world. And so it's very, very cool. So last week and today was an opportunity for them to on the fly kind of broadcast my message. That's why today the band was still recorded. There was two reasons for that. One is the lead guitarist couldn't be here today, and the backup lead guitarist has to be running the live stream right now. We're sort of in a pickle here, so we need some more volunteers desperately. But anyway, so they recorded. That got played next week. Now that they've had a week or two to sort of work on the fly with this, next week they're going to bite off a piece of we're going to do the music live. So next week what happens up here will kind of feel like normal church. I know out there, we all look like we're having a rally and then we're going to go rob something, as we all got our masks on and everything. But anyways, it's been, wonderful. There's a lot of things that have been happening around here, and the stage here is going to have a flooring on it here eventually. I think I saw an email during the message come from the company. I don't know what they said because I didn't read it. I was talking to you. I hope they're telling me that we can pick it up and get it installed. So a lot of things like that. You saw that we've done some work on the patio, the concrete out there. The modular got finished on the inside and textured, so that's cool. So lots of good things that are happening. I'll just sort of flow into this meeting. I do want to say that continue giving online. That's going to be a great way to keep going there. If you want and you're determined to drop it in one of those two boxes back there, you can do that as well. But I'm so grateful to God of how He prepared us for this, even when we didn't know what this was going to be. Because 80+% of our people were already giving online. So when we weren't here, people kept on giving online. That was amazing. We had already been broadcasting the messages out there on Facebook Live, and so to continue to do that, wasn't that big of a thing. We had to work out how to get the music on there, and we're on Facebook, YouTube, and all of that, so that's been very, very cool. We get a lot of people that are watching throughout the week. Not everybody watches live, but they can go on demand and watch it whenever they want. We were able to put Kids Church and then a few weeks ago, Kids Church Mini out there. And I know many of your kids, are watching that, and it's absolutely amazing. Like, I spoke to Richard's daughter the other day, and she's telling me my kids love it. They absolutely love it. And I've seen pictures and videos on Facebook of his grandkids loving it too. So, that's amazing. So a lot of these things that we started will continue on. Right, so when we all get back together again, doesn't mean that all goes away. This is all going to continue. It just makes us even more effective. So I just wanted to talk to you a few minutes about what's going to happen next week and what's coming up in the weeks moving forward, so that you're prepared. Because all of you are volunteers on a Sunday morning, and some of the areas that you're volunteering in aren't going to be operational for a while. If you're a volunteer in the nursery, you're a volunteer in preschool, you're a volunteer in the Rock, you're a volunteer in Fuse, those things aren't going to be operating for a while. I know some of you push back and go, why? Because those are the least likely people. I get it. But we'll have to talk to the governor about that. So there are strict regulations and restrictions that we have to follow. And to even meet today is quite a risk. I don't mean it's a risk for your health. I mean, it is a risk when churches start meeting, because from a state level, I have this feeling when the governor said churches can meet together, but only under these stipulations, and we're going to review this in 21 days. So 21 days from May 25th, 21 days, we're going to review this. Having listened to him a lot over the last 3 months, I'm not sure I don't think what he was saying was, hey, in 21 days, I'm sure you people will be doing so well, we're going to open this thing wide open. I don't think that's what he was insinuating. I think what he was insinuating is, I think there are going to be issues and we'll probably have to back this back down. So, we're all gathered here, but in the middle of the week, something could come out and go, churches can't meet, and so then we're not going to be back here on next Sunday, So there's a lot of unknowns out there, but they don't want us really having children's ministries. They don't want us having small groups. They don't want us doing all of those things. So this is a thing that's going to unfold over the long haul. And we're going to progressively follow along too. So again, today was a soft launch. It gives us an opportunity to test things out. It gives our ushers an opportunity to test some things out. We get an opportunity to see how many people will show up late. It gives us an opportunity to see how many people might show up without a mask, how many people are going to try to buck the system and all. But you guys have done amazing, and so I thank you for that. But so the first thing that's new for you is the pre-registration. So for us, we have to keep you 6 feet apart, right? So thus the chair's set up like that. I know some of you are saying, well, if we're 6 feet apart, why do we have to wear a mask? I have some of the same questions you have, but we have to play by the rules. At this particular stage, we have to play by the rules. So we're going to keep people social distance like this. Now, the room will probably look a little different next week. Like, you got Kim sitting there, and there's 2 chairs. Next week, she would probably just have 1 chair. After we see all the pre-registrations, and we'll link people together who are couples, and then we'll separate people who are single, and we'll try to get our 73 people seated in the room. That's what we're going to try to do next week. So pre-registration is important. Without pre-registering, you just can't show up and come in, because there are going to be assigned seats like this. You say, why assigned seats? Okay, well, for several reasons, but a big reason. Should there be, which I pray that there isn't, but should there be an outbreak that somebody finds out this week, oh my goodness, I tested positive for coronavirus and I went to church on Sunday. I know exactly where everybody was seated, and I know who was by who, and I'm not passing your I'm not passing your information off to the government freely. But should there be a problem, you would want to know, and I would want to know. If I was Audrey and Abe tested positive, I would want to know that because I was sitting 6 feet from him. You see what I mean? So that's part of it. So we assign seats and we put a seating chart out. Just think of it like going to a wedding reception. You know, you look at the chart, you find out where you're seated, and you come and sit. Now, I didn't put you where you are. Leslie put you where you are. And I think what she did is she tried to put people where they are based upon where she knows you usually sit, right? So she knows these guys are here, these guys are here, we're right there, Carol's behind us, you know, the tubes are over there, you know. So when I was putting your names on the chairs last night, I was kind of chuckling to myself, wow, she was good. She was good. So that works out. I said a few weeks ago, one of the challenges for us is that we cannot buy hand sanitizer. And that is still the case today. So the supply company that we order from, you know, it's not their fault, but they're at the point now that they can't get it, so they're making their own, and they're trying to get, you know, FDA approval or whatever approval it needs to be to sell that, and we're hoping to get it. What will happen on a given week is that the glass doors will be propped open as they were today. These doors into this room will be propped open as they were today. So none of you should be touching a door. So you could come in, and you saw those two wonderful, very expensive stands outside that had a seating chart on there, those 4x4 stands. I personally know the guy who built those. Those stands are going to hold a dispenser for sanitizer, a touchless sanitizer dispenser. We ordered those. Everything came on Thursday, but they were not touchless. They were the ones you have to squeeze. So I was like, no, we can't use those. So those beautiful stands I made out there to save us $200 per stand, I'm selling them to the church for $150. So I think you're still getting a good deal. No, just kidding. So what we plan on doing, and the new dispensers will not even be here for next Sunday. They won't come in till the 15th, so for 2 weeks from now. So what would happen, you would walk in, there would be two stands there. There is a dispenser on the wall near the usher's closet, so everybody will come in, hand sanitize, or most likely, you'll have your own sanitizer. If your wife's with you, she's probably got sanitizer. I don't think very many men carry around a quart jug of hand sanitizer in their back pocket, but you know, you can sanitize yourself. You come in, we're wearing masks. I don't know how long that will be for, but we're gonna follow the rules. We don't want to jeopardize you. We don't want to jeopardize other churches. I read an article this week of a church in Germany that reopened on May 10th. They followed all the guidelines. Their guidelines did not require masks, but they followed all the other guidelines, kept everybody's social distance. 180 people came to church, and within a few days, 112 of the 180 tested positive for coronavirus. Nobody knows how that happened. It's a freakish, weird kind of a thing. You know, there are some who thought at the beginning Christians are going to be immune to this. But as it turns out, Christians are not immune to this, and there have been some people who have suffered tremendously and passed on, and you know, everything else. So we want to follow the rules. We have to do everything we can possibly do to protect you so that our insurance policy would cover us should something happen. That's why you can't just go rogue and do your own thing. We're following the government, and we're following our insurance. So people will come in, they'll hand sanitize, they'll come in, they'll take their seat, we'll worship, and then they'll go back out and go home. And I say, you can't hang out together in here. I don't even really want you hanging out talking on the sidewalk. Go at least to the parking lot, and you're adults, you can figure out what to do from there. But we've just got to say that so that we don't have people, you know, it's hard today to come and not shake somebody's hand or hug somebody. That's really difficult because I can't do that. You know, it's one of those kinds of things. So it's going to be challenging. Now, this is somewhat personal. We don't really want people using the restroom. I know that's hard because some of you have the bladder the size of a pea. You know, I understand. I get it. We're not closing the restrooms down, but if you have been in the restroom, in the men's room, both urinals are closed, one stall is closed, only the handicap stall is open, and in this women's room, only the handicap stall is open, because if you need to go, we only want one person in there at a time, because when you leave, technically, we're supposed to send people in there to clean the restroom. Now, should one of you want to take on that, a female and a male, to take on that as your ministry in the coming weeks, that would be wonderful. Because sending Luis into the women's room every time a woman comes out seems a little bit weird, doesn't it? Right? So the government let up a little bit because as of a couple of weeks ago, the restrooms had to be closed. And people started squawking about that, going, well, hey, so what we were supposed to tell everybody, this is 2 or 3 weeks ago, don't eat or drink within 1 hour of church starting. So you don't have to pee or poop in the church restroom, and try to keep the service at an hour, because as adults, you might be able to hold it that long, and then you run out and, you could be like Eleanor, I just pee in the grass. I don't want you peeing on the grass here at the church. And if you can also do her plan B, I want to pee at the store. Stop it wherever I don't care what you do once you leave the lot, right? You can pee wherever you want. Just don't do it on the property here. So anyways, it's just uncomfortable to have to say all of that. Now, we want you to take your temperature before you come. That's what you agreed to do today. I'm not double checking. I'm not logging your temperature, but by you checking that box, says you did such and such, and if you didn't do it, that's on you. That's between you and God. That's on you, should something ever happen. I took my temperature this morning. It said I was 96 point something. I'm just like, And I look at the thermometer, and it says guaranteed to be within 0.01 degrees. And I'm like, okay, I probably have problems of a different sort. But anyways, we don't have to do the gun thermometer and take your temperature like that. We're doing this the other way. Some churches are doing that, So for 3 weeks, we don't want anybody under the age of 12. Here's the reason for that. I'll just pick on Leslie. So Leslie's got 2 kids, 6 and 8. They're wonderful children. I mean, Jack's the opening star of Kids Church and all of that, but they're wonderful kids. But I used to really like them a lot until Leslie said, I don't mean to hurt your feelings, but my kids wouldn't sit through a whole hour service listening to you. I'm just like, well, you know what? Jack, I don't listen to all that you have to say on the Kids Church thing either. I just turn it off right as soon as you talk. So we don't want you bringing your 6-year-old in here, and what kids do in this room, there's something that triggers them to want to run when they get in this room. You've seen it. So we're going to be live streaming. So this is a big thing. We don't need babies crying. We don't need kids running around and all of that kind of stuff. So we felt like if you're 12, you might be able to handle it. But if your 12-year-old cannot handle sitting here listening to me because there's no classes, then leave them at home, or however you have to do that. So that sounds cruel, it sounds unjust, but that's just the way it has to be. Now, as we move toward July, we're hoping that things will loosen up a little bit. We're going to be reevaluating, and when we get to July, Cindy's been ready to teach kids for weeks, so it's not like we're not ready. We'll see what happens, and we might slowly start progressively bringing kids back. But my kids are grown, but those of you who have younger kids, this is a serious issue for you, and you're going to wrestle with, would I bring my kids back or wouldn't I? That's why some of the questions on the survey were such as they were. We wanted to know, if you did come back, would you bring your kids? And some people are like, no, so other people are like, yeah. So it's a mixture. So we'll evaluate it, whether we can start bringing children back and start doing some of the classes. The first group that we could probably do something with is Fuse, because they're a little bit older, and then we could probably start doing something with the Rock. And you try to tell Carol to social distance the toddlers in the nursery, So Carol and Joyce and Kim, there's 12 toddlers in the nursery. Now, they don't have to wear a mask because they're not supposed to if they're under 2, but you keep them 6 feet apart from each other, and every time they touch something, wipe it down and sterilize and disinfect it. Nobody's going to work the nursery. So take preschoolers. This is like herding cats, right? So, are they going to social distance? Cindy says, I can control the kids in the rock. When she says that, she's holding a roll of duct tape, but she says, I can keep the kids in the rock separated by 6 feet at least. And the parents will take their own scissors and cut their kid loose from the chair after the session's over, and everybody will be happy. So you see some of the challenges that we have with trying to unroll all of this. It's difficult. We're evaluating. Okay, so no nursery, preschool, rock, fuse, or life groups really until further notice. The volunteers that we're going to need next Sunday is, we're going to need a few ushers and we're going to need a couple greeters. We don't want a lot of traffic tied up on the walkway with everybody, hey, let's stop and chat. No, we just want people to come in, sit down, and when it's over, get up and leave. I feel very uncomfortable about that. I hate that. Every bit of that, I hate that. But that's just what we have to do until further notice. So then the question was, what about prayer after the service? So that's why John and Audrey are here, because on Sundays they volunteer to pray for people. At first I said, probably not. Cindy said, certainly adults are capable of staying within 6 feet of each other, but the people who are on that prayer team will have to make that decision whether they want to do that or not. But it's possible we could do that. It's just like if you've got a bowel issue and you're standing at the back door and John's up here. Could you pray for me? I've got explosive diarrhea and I just don't know what to do about it. And John's like, yeah, let me pray for you. That would be uncomfortable, but maybe they could be a little closer together to make that work. So a lot of you are not going to be serving for a while. The gazebo's not going to be open for I don't know how long. So we're not serving up coffee, donuts. That's sad. We're not going to be doing those things. I'm trying to think if there's other things that we've kind of processed. It's one of those things when you talk about this constantly and then get up here and you're like, okay, I'm going to try to figure this out. But does anybody here have a question that I could answer for you or try to answer for you right now? Because this will help me on Tuesday night when I go live to try to explain all of this to the congregation. Yes, Richard. Well, it's the same issue. Anytime somebody goes in there, it has to be cleaned. I know, but they're touching the door, and it's complicated. It's very complicated. So what I've told these guys is probably maybe next week or whatever. So if somebody goes to the restroom, or when we go to a second service, when we add a second service, everything gets a lot more complicated. Like the chairs you're sitting in have been sitting in this room for 12 weeks. Nobody's touched them until the middle of this week when I started putting these chairs out here. So there's no coronavirus on these chairs. But when you get up and leave and another person comes and sits down, now we have to sanitize that. We have to figure out how to sanitize fabric chairs. So I understand you can spray stuff on it, but after a while, so you see what I mean. After the first service, a team of people would have to sanitize every door handle, go in the restroom, sanitize every toilet handle, every sink handle, the handle on the paper towels, the door handle. You can see it's a big job. It gets more complicated when you add a second service. Now, next week, these chairs are going to sit here until the middle of the week till we find out who's coming next week, and they'll get adjusted a little bit, but anything that you left on them today will be dead before next Sunday, so we're not really worried about that. Our cleaning crew is coming in, and when he was here yesterday, he sanitized every door handle, faucet handle, and all of that, so we were good to go for today, but anyway, John.
What do we register for next week?
Do we say Wednesday or Thursday? Do we know?
As far as opening registration?
Yes.
Wednesday morning, and it'll close Friday at midnight.
Okay, Wednesday morning, and it'll close Friday at midnight. Now, it will be important for you to be here before the service starts at 9, because this is going to sound really ugly. Because next week, if you show up at 9:05, you're probably not going to be allowed in. Because at that moment, we're live. And the door's flinging open and all. Yes, Carrie?
Tuesday is when Sunday volunteers that will be serving that Sunday, such as those couple greeters and the band, as well as your spouses, will get to register on Tuesday so that you are for sure here and have a seat.
Okay. We need to know the volunteers are going to be here. That will tell us how many other seats we can open up, right? Yes.
Will we need to stagger? I've heard some churches talking about this, or I guess rumors that if you attend one Sunday, you should maybe not register for the following week so that somebody else, because of the limited space.
Okay.
If it gets complicated like that, we're going to start auctioning off seats. So those who give the biggest amount of money, like Audrey was willing to pay $50 to get a seat today. Audrey somehow got out on the World Wide Web and was about to give a terrorist organization $50 because she thought that's what she had to do to get this seat today, but then we stopped her before that happened. No, that's a very good question. We honestly don't know how many people will want to come. So let's just say there's 73 chairs in here, and 20 of them are for our volunteers, and that means we can take in 53 more. There could be 100 people that want to come, and so it gets cut off. And so at that point, what we would say is that if you came today, let somebody else come next week, or, don't register right at the moment. This is not like registering for a class at RCC. Some of you have gone to RCC. Know if registration opens at 12 midnight and 1 second, by 12:01, the classes are full. I don't think it's going to be like that, but so you all have a shot of coming next week. But if you come next week and you hear me say, we had so many people that couldn't come, then I would probably say, if you came this week, then let somebody else have a shot at next week, and we'll kind of go from there. That's one of the reasons why we just didn't start with 2 services. There's a lot more Sunday volunteers than what's in here, but we've got people that are on vacation, they're out of town, they're this or that, or they don't feel comfortable coming into the environment and that. So we got to be people of love. We don't want anybody to feel... I'll just use this for an example. Miss Ruby had a phone consultation with her doctor a week or so ago, and the doctor said, please, in your condition, do not be around crowds. So she said, I probably won't be able to come till next year. Now, I know that probably sounds crazy to some of you, but if your life's at stake, So I don't want anybody to feel like if you're at risk, that you need to feel obligated to come, because we're going to keep doing what we've been doing online, and it'll be a good thing. You can still stay connected that way, but we just don't know how people are going to respond, and we'll kind of play that by ear. Kim?
I know you probably can't answer this, but the double standard, why do we have to sanitize some students coming technically, but stores don't? I mean, the bathroom at Walmart, 30 people in there.
Oh, I know. I went to the restroom at Sam's Club a couple of weeks ago. It was dirtier than it usually is. I didn't care. I'm a person of fairness and justice, and I hate double standards and all of that. Like, for example, I ordered a pizza from Little Bambino's on Marino Beach. I go down there, I play by the rules, I wear my mask, I come in there, I stand on the dot that's 6 feet apart. I watch the woman in front of me pick up her pizzas. She hands her debit card to the girl who's wearing gloves, swipes her card, hands it back, tears off the receipt, picks up a pen, hands it to her and says, can you sign this? Signs it, puts a pen down, off this lady goes. Next, I walk up there, she gives me my pizza, can I have your card? Hand her my card. She didn't change her gloves, she didn't sanitize at all. And then she said, okay, can you sign this? And she handed me the pen, and I took the pen, and then I said there, listen, ultimately, I could care less about this. I'm not afraid I'm going to get the coronavirus and die. That's not even a concern to me. But I just want to know, aren't you guys supposed to sanitize this stuff? Oh, I do when I have time. And I go, no, but what I'm saying is that the lady who just left signed it, her receipt with that same pen, and now you've just handed that to me. You didn't sanitize that. I don't know what she's got. This girl looked at me like I was speaking a foreign language. So some people get it and some people don't. And to answer your question, that's part of this is just Bill speaking now. I feel like the church is being discriminated against. That's what I ultimately feel. But yeah, so we will just play by these rules. Now, we seriously considered reopening before we were allowed to reopen, technically allowed to reopen. I think there were a lot of us who would have done that, and there were a lot of us who didn't want to do that. And, we evaluated it. And, when you've got one elder who's in law enforcement, it's difficult to ask a cop to break the law and come to a service. And, so, there's a lot of practical things like that. So, it was kind of crazy. But anyways, we didn't have to worry about it as they opened as of last week. Any other questions? Okay, if you have a question between now and Tuesday at 7, just email me, bill@palmcanyon.org. If you have a question, you just didn't want to ask it out loud, that's okay too, because I'm going to try to answer as many questions as I can. I want people to feel comfortable. I want them to understand what they're coming into. Is there risk involved? Yes, all of you assumed risk. That was why you checked that little box before you could register to sit. You're basically saying, I accept that risk. And then you came in here. Now, we've tried to minimize the risk as much as possible. And, we're going to do the best we can. That's all that anybody can be asked to do. We're going to do the best we can. So I love you guys. We've missed you. This is like not seeing your kids forever, and then all of a sudden they show up, So it's pretty special. But you have a lot of people to be thankful for, and you don't have to express the appreciation to them now, but over time, I think sending an email, a card, or a gift card to somebody would be great. But, like I've said, Carrie spends hours editing to put that service together. Adam, thankfully, he's a teacher. He's been off work. He's had a lot of time to invest. There's been a lot of things that go on. Michael has been here every Sunday helping with the live streaming. Mike Parks is now back on the lights as of a couple of weeks ago. Jake has been putting together youth group online every week. Cindy's been putting on Kids Church, and now Kids Church Mini. And you know how I say when VBS rolls around, it becomes all-consuming at our house? Well, Kids Church and Kids Church Mini is now all-consuming in our house. And I tell her, half of the views you say you have on there is you watching it. Here she is at 6 a.m. logging on. She's watching the same thing she just finished a few hours before editing and posting, and she's watching it again, So it's a lot of fun, and we'll watch it probably a couple times today, and then we'll go back and see what some of this service was like. And it's kind of odd to see yourself. Leilani, I don't know how you felt watching yourself on the screen, and Johnny watching yourself on the screen, but that's what we have to deal with every week. Watching you, I'm saying. No. So it's odd, Leslie, Carrie, you're watching yourself. Carrie at this point has just gotten used to it, and I don't like watching myself on there. Today it was fun coming in here and it being on the screen, because every Sunday leading up to this, I have my headphones, and when the service starts online, I have to open up Facebook, and I'm watching the same thing you're watching and listening and worshiping, and then they're going, you got 60 seconds, and I'm trying to get this off and turn everything off and get up here and be ready. I'm like, oh, hey, thank you for being here at church today. Last week, you probably saw one of the mistakes that you watched me come out and set this thing up with a piece of cake. The service hadn't even started yet. That was weird. But we're learning as we go, and these guys are doing a great job. So I think expressing some appreciation to them in a tangible way would be great. But Lord, I just pray your blessing over these people. Keep everybody safe, Lord. Just grow us up in you, and help us to be the people of God that we need to be, to love people, Lord, wherever we might be and wherever we might interact with people. People that are different from us, people outside of our own family, people outside of our own church, Lord, people outside of our own job. Let us represent you well, Lord, because ultimately we have to answer to you. And so I pray your blessing for a wonderful, wonderful week, Lord, and as we advance to the next phase of regathering here next Sunday, that'll go off without a hitch as well. And I thank you for these people, and I ask this all in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you so much.